So the budget has happened here in the UK. For those that don't know, every year we have our Chancellor stand up and tell us how bad the world is of our finances and then tells us how much tax we're going to have to pay. And they've increased a bunch of taxes. But what they haven't done is change silver and gold or capital gains tax on the silver and gold. Yet, anyway. I do think at some point in our lifetime we're going to see those changes happen, those rules shift. But for now, at least, I think silver and gold are looking quite bright for the future. I think there's going to be a lot of new people trying to get involved with gold and silver after hearing today's budget, because there is a lot more tax going to be put on things like savings and other assets that you might have. So people take attention, because I do think more taxation is coming over the course of this parliament, and we'll see how that goes. But today, at least, we can unpack and see what's happened in today's budget and talk a little bit about gold and silver and how that's going to affect our world in today's Precious Metal Ramble. Hello everybody, Backyard Bullion here. Welcome to another Precious Metal Ramble, where we have down-to-earth discussions about all things precious and shiny. Now it's post-budget ramble time. For those that don't know, in the UK, once a year, we have what's called the budget, where our Chancellor of the Exchequer stands up and talks about the state of the country's finances and tells us how much tax we're all going to pay. And there are always a whole bunch of rumours, leaks, and basically just like speculation that goes up before those budgets. And as with every budget this year, there's been lots of speculation about whether or not certain things would affect the world of coins, like the capital gains tax exemption status of things like Britannias or sovereigns or other products from the Royal Mint, which are pound denominated, not bars and such like. Ooh, like this one here that we got from the Royal Mint recently at an absolute bargain price, because they mistakenly put, I mean, it's the most absurd packaging, but they mistakenly put this one into their purple sale. But hey, we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. The point here is, though, that there was a lot of rife speculation about the budget before the budget. And indeed, literally half an hour before the budget was supposed to be read out by the Chancellor, the entire contents and formative nature of the budget was leaked accidentally by the Office of Budget Responsibility. Not particularly responsible as an office goes, but hey, that is what it is. And the good news is that there is no change in the status of our capital gains tax exempt silver Britannias. There's no change on VAT when it comes to purchasing gold products, gold investment products, that is. There are some interesting elements about gold coins which are over a certain value above their gold content, which I'll share a little bit about in this, but that wasn't from this budget. That's just from other parts of the tax system for gold. And there are other elements of the tax system which have been widely speculated on about how it's going to affect silver and gold. Gold and silver prices will inevitably have a reaction based on the value of the pound. I think it's unfair to sort of speculate exactly where that will be over the course of the afternoon that I'm filming this video and publishing it. We'll just have to see how that goes. But one thing that I know as a stacker, as a collector, as somebody who's sitting here with precious metals, is that it's really good to hold these precious metals right now. It's really good to have them, because it does seem like there's an awful lot of concern out there about finances. The bond markets, for example, went up and down all day with this whole budget. The fact that it was released early, leaked, is hilariously dumb. And this is not a political channel. I'm not here to just simply bash the politics of the current government, but they're not very good, really, are they? I mean, it's hilarious, but that is what it is. So the big headline news, though, is capital gains taxes have not been changed. They have not been moved in line with your income tax rates. Now, there are some changes to personal taxation, like the freezing of income tax thresholds and dividend tax, property income, and money on savings. And this, in my mind, is just all forcing people into investments. They have changed the way that we have cash ISAs here in the UK. So cash ISAs, by the way, for those outside the UK, is basically a tax-free account that you can invest your money in and you don't pay any tax on the income. But now they are changing the rules for that. So if you've got savings in other bank accounts, you'll be paying now more taxation on that, as well as having things like dividends and also property income. So lots of changes in that sense. And I think that's going to basically push more people to look for those types of investments which are really quite tax efficient. And silver and gold are one of those really tax efficient savings. Now, will that ever be the target of the ire of our Chancellor here in the United Kingdom? Well, that's every year seems to be the speculation that something will shift, something will change, and we'll get the, we'll change the capital gains status on Britannia's, or we'll have, hopefully that's just a little smudge on there, yes it is, and or we'll have, for example, VAT suddenly levied on gold investment products, and or the VAT rates will change, things like that. So there's always a lot of speculation when it comes to this, but the good news, the headline news, is that there is no fundamental shift and change in our bullion purchasing. VAT still applies to silver. VAT does not apply to investment gold. But here's an interesting thing: if the gold coin that you're buying, or gold medallion, gold, it doesn't have to be a coin, gold bar, whatever it is, if it's over a certain value beyond the amount of the gold value in it, I think it's 180%, so basically quite a significant amount over, then VAT has to be levied. Now, there was a product that was released by the Royal Mint not that long ago, year and a half ago, the Great Seals of the Realm, supposed to be a brand new series. Hey, it was a flop, and guess what? They didn't do any more of them. But in that one, it was a medallion, and they put a price point on it such that it was over that level in rules, and they had to levy 20% charge on the VAT on the gold. So the Royal Mint really kind of dropped the ball there, made it an incredibly uncompetitive product because of the humongously huge premium on top of the already large premium that the gold element of their release put. So for now, we are all set to go. Things like proof coins like this, you have to be somewhat careful of this because, for example, if these are the reverse frosted proof sovereigns, by the way, for those who followed me on the Silver Forum and on various different bits of social media, I had 3 arrive that were absolutely garbage in their condition. They had dings, dents, scratches, you name it, they had it. And the Mint reminted them for me, which was very nice of them. I did kick up a bit of a stink, and I don't know whether they would have reminted them for any Joe Bloggs purchaser of these, but they did it for me, and that's good for me, I guess. So yay me. And I've put them in these little coin flips because they're going to be going off for grading. We're going to get them hopefully all put in nice NGC slabs, and maybe we'll get 1 or 2 of them in the PF70s, which would be really nice. But I think these are coins which will go up in value quite a lot. Now, the problem with that, as I mentioned about the taxation side of things, if you're a business, now, not if you're an individual, but you do have to be somewhat careful if you're seen to be trading, because this could be quite a significant thing. If you've got a lot of very, very rare coins that are, for example, made of gold, like, for example, the 1 ounce Queen's Beast Completer proof coin, which retails around £9,000 at the moment, that is way beyond what the value of the gold is. So technically, it's a vatable sale. Now, if you're just an individual, as long as you're not trading, that doesn't matter. Again, not tax advisor here, but that's generally the mentality of it. If you're just a private investor, you're just selling it, part of your collection, fine. But if you're a business and you're trading that, then theoretically some of that profit would have to go to the old taxman. Now, one of the big things that I was a little bit concerned about in this budget, which I still think might happen in future budgets, is the VAT registration threshold here in the United Kingdom. Unfortunately, at the moment, it has stayed static at 90,000. There was a lot of talk about it potentially being reduced even as low as £30,000, and that would have had a real major impact on not just my business, but loads of different businesses out there in the world. So fingers crossed, fortunately, for now at least, we are business as usual, and we'll just crack on into 2026, which is really exciting. But for now, all of the uncertainty that comes with silver and gold speculation, we know the answers to, which is really good. Capital gains tax is the big one that I was expecting actually them to align with your income taxes. So at the moment, I think the rates for, like, if these weren't Britannia's and they weren't exempt, if they were just like Maple Leaf or something, you would pay 20, or I think it's 18% if you're a lower rate taxpayer and 24% if you're a higher rate taxpayer on profits above £3,000. Not on Britannia's, remember, on anything that's not a Britannia. So a big chunky silver bar, for example, that would have been capital gains taxed. And there was talk that it would be aligning them with various different income thresholds, which would have been an increase. So that doesn't seem to be in the budget. It's not a backyard bullion video without me dropping a coin. It's provocative. It gets the people going. So shout at me in the comments, please. It really does help the YouTube algorithm. So not a lot's changed in that sense. Will it potentially change in the future? Yes. What can we learn from this that will help us guide where we're going to be in the future with our silver and gold buying? Well, I don't think it's very likely anytime soon that they're going to remove VAT from silver, because it's just going to bring in too much money for them, and it's a no-brainer to keep it on. It's an industrial metal, so VAT on silver is never going to disappear in my opinion. They're not bringing in VAT on gold because I think it would really cripple the gold markets here in the United Kingdom, make us uncompetitive compared with all the other countries around the world where it is exempt. So again, I don't think that's ever likely to come back in. It would take some serious, it would be pretty massive to do that. To remove the capital gains tax exemption status on silver and gold items, I think as well would be a very, very difficult thing to do for a number of reasons. One, people have the gold and silver already, so they've made investment decisions. They've got this investment that is capital gains tax exempt already. So to have that rug pulled from underneath your feet is going to be contentious at best and borderline challengeable in court. But I suppose they make the rules, don't they? So they could do whatever they want in that sense. So that I don't think is very likely to happen, if at all, if I'm being honest. So there are also some other interesting things about Italy that I wanted to mention in this video. So there was a report that the Italian government is taking consultations on whether or not they should do what's called an amnesty for gold investments, and people would then pay a 12.5% levy on the gold that they have because, there's a lot of misconception about this, a lot of fake news, I think is probably the best way to put it, about what this actually means. And it's because in Italy, all gold is taxable as a chargeable asset, as capital gains. They don't have things like Britannia's that will be exempt. So what they're trying to do is basically get people to actually own up to the fact that they have gold along the way rather than at the end, because at the end they have to pay 26% tax, and if they pay their 12.5% levy now, I think it basically ends up working out that they pay less tax overall across their entire lifespan of owning it. It's not gone down that well because there's a privacy thing here, isn't there? The point of holding gold is that it's meant to be this private asset, this out of the system asset that people want to have. So Cobra Stacker, you better listen to this video because that was you ringing me midway through filming. Thanks, mate. No, it's fine. So I completely lost my train of thought. I think I was talking about privacy and Italy, and it's not gone down that well, and I would completely agree. But unfortunately, I do think it is a potential thing that might happen. For example, in the UK, one of the biggest changes in the budget is that they are now introducing what's called a mansion tax. So if your home is valued at over £2 million, you have to pay £2,500 a year for the privilege of living in that home, and more if it's worth even more. World's smallest violin starts to play for those people who own a property that is worth £2 million or more. But that could happen for people who have assets that don't have very much cash. Perhaps they bought a house in London 50 years ago and suddenly their house is worth £3 million, even though they paid peanuts for it. And inflation, of course, pushes house prices up over the course of a lifetime. So it's going to fiscally drag more people into that tax bracket over time, which is going to be very, very interesting to see. And I think that that might be a way that the Treasury, that the government does silver and gold taxation over time. They might well look at assets and tax assets. How they'd implement it is really difficult to see. There's going to be a lot of unfortunate boating accidents. A lot of people will lose their gold and silver mysteriously overnight. So that is what it is. So is it likely? I don't think so. Is it feasibly possible? Maybe. It would be pretty hard to do, and I think it would just be akin to my views on gold confiscation. I just don't think it's a likely thing. I just don't think that there will be a time when the government comes knocking on your door to buy all your gold off you. It's just not going to be practical. It wouldn't raise that much. The administrative burden of actually doing it would outweigh the benefits of it. So in summary, not a lot has changed for good. There are some changes to the tax system here in the UK that now does affect people in terms of dividend taxes, savings. Will it push more people into tax-free savings like silver and gold? Yeah, I think it will. I think people are going to be like, hang on, now I have to pay 2% more on my savings, on my money in my bank account, and I could put less of it in a tax-efficient account. Well, what other tax-free saving vehicles are there? And there'll be a lot of people coming into silver and gold, I think, over the course of the next year. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. Now, just for you cool kids, what are we going to do for our little thing? Now, I wanted to see, yes, okay, so the gold price is currently hovering around 3,142. So not a massive market reaction to the budget in terms of the value of the pound and the gold price. It stayed pretty static today. So that is your Cool Kids Club phrase, 3,142, and we'll see what we have for the future. Otherwise, thanks all for watching. Especially Cobra Stacker for interrupting me with his phone call. That would be amazing to see you guys comment. In fact, that's what should be the bloody Cool Kid Club comment, not the gold price. So if you're a super special, extra special Cool Kid Club, shout thanks Cobra in the comment section. That is your Cool Kid Club phrase for today. Thanks Cobra for interrupting me. Anyway, see you on the next video. As always, please make sure you like, share, comment and subscribe for more.